And I'm going to go down to my other sample, which is 1525 reads at the bottom, which says 2 HVAC and hot water. And we're going to look at that same summary page. And what you see now is that the heating system has 2 beige headers, the first and second floor heating systems. Cooling systems have 2 beige headers for first and second floor. There's 2 ductwork definitions for a vented crawl space and an unconditioned attic. And there's 2 hot water systems. And this is just made up data, but the idea behind this is to be able to allow you to define all of the different systems that are in the house that you need to define. And a hot water system is perhaps a good example. You also define what portion of the house they serve, and in this case you'll see that number 1 serves 70% of the house and number 2 serves 30% of the house. So this could have been a main house that had an addition master bedroom, for example. So the main house has the laundry in the kitchen and the other bedrooms, and the addition has just the master bedroom and a bathroom. Provides a lot of flexibility. Same kind of thing with the heating and cooling systems, and what we show in the heating system is number 1 serves 50% the first floor, number 2 serves 50%, which is the second floor. But on the cooling system, we broke it out to show that the first served 40%, which is the first floor, and the second served 60% of the cooling load. And these are all your best guesses. The idea here is that what we're trying to do is capture the characterization of the building. We're not trying to capture the exact amount of energy that's used by those, but rather what do they represent. Because this is not a full modeling program by any stretch, it's not intended to be data that's entered into a computer simulation. Rather, it's data that's used to characterize the home that you then use to come up with recommendations. So that's, again, a very quick overview of the fact that there are sections that allow you to do moldable entries. Another section is contacts. You'll see here that there's a single contact in this case, which is the owner, but there could have been multiple contacts. Not every section has the ability to have moldable entries into it. Some of them just don't make sense, like in this case, or at the top here you'll see location. There's only 1 location, so it doesn't make sense to have 2 locations. Similarly for services or house information that you see on the same page. So we've tried to develop this in a way that provides the flexibility where there is a good chance of having multiple systems, but otherwise there's a single data entry section for each, or option for each section.
Rich?
Yes.
I have a question for Brian here.
Hey,
Sure.
Rich, this is Brian. Just a general
Sure.
question. We've talked about this in the past, but in North Carolina we have a lot of heat pumps.
Correct.
So where would that go into this heating and cooling section? Electric or heating or cooling? Or?
Heat pumps, well, you always want to characterize both the heating and the cooling system. So if you have separate systems, if you have a gas heat and electric central air cool, it's pretty obvious that you have separate systems. In heat pump, obviously, you're doing both heating and cooling with that heat pump. But you still need to characterize, separately characterize the heating system and the cooling system as being a heat pump system. So you would enter the information into both sections, both the heating system and the cooling system.
Right. Okay.
There may be different capacities, there may be different controls, there may be other things. In general, they're virtually identical. You know, you have the same thermostat and other things, but you don't really know that unless you characterize it. So my experience has been that if you don't have the data, then you're making some assumptions that you don't really need to, and it's pretty quick and easy to enter the data. So I'm going to go in here and go into the cooling system. So this is a cooling system, and in this particular case, there's 2 cooling systems, but I'm going to add a third one. So I clicked on the plus sign at the top. I now have a third system. The number is automatically entered. And what you'll see here is that the usage, the percent, was not filled in because the previous amount equaled 100%. So you see that in this case there's a 40% and a 60%. But I'm going to change this around and change, again, clicking on the second one, it's 60%. I'm going to just say that that is 40%. So this hypothetical second system, it has 40% of the total load. And now I'm going to click in the upper left-hand side arrow. So this brings up another point, that if you make a change anywhere, it will ask you whether or not you want to save the change or discard the change or always save the change. So you could make changes and maybe you didn't intend to, so you can now say discard and it won't save it. Or you did intend to make the change and you say save and it will save it. If you're comfortable with never asking that question, never answering that question, you can say always save. And if you say always save, then it won't ask you. It just assumes that you know what you're doing, and if you made a change, you really want to save that change. So once you get to be experienced in this and you're comfortable with it, you hit the always save and you never have to answer that question again. If I do that, you see the upper left-hand arrow is just the arrow. If I say always save, which I just did, what you see is that upper right-hand arrow has a little check mark below it. That check mark indicates that it's always saved. So you can tell that it's going to save it for you regardless. So I now just changed those two systems, or the second system to be 40%. I'm going to add a third cooling system now. And the first two added up to 80%, so this one automatically gets filled in as 20%. You can change that, but that's the default. So in this case, I'm going to say that this is an addition, and it's an electric system, and it's a heat pump air source. And you would put in a couple other pieces of information. Maybe it's a 3-ton. It was installed in 1998. Had regular maintenance, had filter maintenance, and the system condition is fair. At this point, you can add comments. Every section has a comment piece at the bottom of it. So I can add comments here. Looks pretty good. Or whatever makes sense. You can also take pictures and draw sketches with every section, and it will apply that picture to that section. So we'll come back to pictures, but every section has the ability to make sketches and take pictures. So now I have the third system. I saved it, and you notice I clicked in the upper left-hand arrow, and it just created the third one, didn't ask me. And that's because I had said save always. So now I have 3 systems. So adding the description of a heat pump cooling after you've added the description for a heat pump heating is pretty quick. And by adding it, you have a very distinct definition of it, so that you know that the heat pump was actually used the way that you would assume it was used. Always save the check mark in the upper left-hand side. I'm going to show you one other piece that goes with that. So let's say you said always save, but you didn't really want to do that going forward. You can change that, and I'm going to jump into, again, upper left-hand side. I'm going to go back to the audits page, which is the home page, and then click on the gear. And the gear has one other item that is of use at times, is preferences, the third one down. Preferences is a list of preferences that you can set for your device. And there's a number of devices there, or a number of settings there. The one that we're going to talk about is the save option, which is the very last one, or next to the last one. And you see it says ask to save if edit detected, or always save on navigation. And those are kept per session. So, or I'm sorry, once you set it here, it's kept permanent. What I did before was a per session basis. So I'm going to I'm going to set this back to always save. I'll always ask. If I did this right. So I'm going to go back, make a change. Click. Just make a simple change. And I didn't do it right. I didn't save that change. We'll go on because we're, with the amount of time, I think we want to continue on. So a couple things that we'll talk about next is pictures, because I think pictures are something that are very useful in a lot of cases. There's an image gallery, and that's what I have shown here is image gallery. That image gallery shows or gives you a list of all the pictures. You can look at the thumbnails by clicking on the image gallery header, and all the thumbnails are shown here. What you'll notice is that if I go into one of these that is this one here, this heat pump system, here's the picture that was taken, and as you look down in the title, which is next to the bottom, it says title heating systems. That was automatically filled out. If you took this picture in the heating system, then that title will get automatically filled in. You can change it by either editing it directly or clicking in the right arrow or the down arrow on the right-hand side, which shows a select list that you can change and say, well, I did this in the heating system, but it's really part of the cooling system, so I'll just change it to cooling system. It's just a title that's used for a descriptor to be able to print out the picture along with the report. So we'll go through two more things. You can annotate on the picture as well. So I'm going to click on the picture, save that change. And if I click on the picture, I end up with this image. Hasn't updated yet. Here we go. So I clicked on the picture. I got to this image, and what you'll see is that there's a set of icons at the bottom, and those icons at the bottom are on the left-hand side, show you color. The next one over shows you width. The next one over shows you the type of annotation that you want to do. From the top, it's arrow, circle, rectangle, pencil, straight line, and eraser. And then on the very right-hand side, which is probably the key to making this easy, is a undo button. So what I'm going to do is to click on the arrow and just draw an arrow. There's something going on here that I want to describe. I can do an arrow. I can go and do a circle. I can also do a freehand across there, but I didn't really want that freehand, so I can go to the undo, the lower right-hand corner, and click on it, and it will undo the last annotation that was added, and I can undo all of them as far as that goes. So it makes it very convenient and simple to add annotation. So I'm going to come back, and I'm going to add a circle, and I'm going to save it that way. So that's adding annotation, and you can do that at any picture that you've taken.